Amon hot take coming in 3, 2, 1. Amon is in a rough place. But not in a weak kind of way. That guy still got some disgusting damage. But hear me out. What's good, everyone? It's Word here, and here's the problem. Amon basically have two builds right now. One shot or Ordinance. And I'm not exactly my Ordinance orc at the moment. But let's be honest though, he is ridiculously good at one-shotting things. His top end is insane. But, and you know me, I always have a but. His whole kit feels a bit like a house of cards. One unlucky patch note, and we're all gonna be out here having a full-on Scooby-Doo moment. You know, row. But hey, it is what it is. Until the devs finally buff his skills and his minions, we are going straight back to what actually works. Now look, we're insanely close to that big 1k milestone, so if this build helps you out, hit that subscribe, ring that bell, and let me show you how I'm gonna be pulling up against Bloomreaper the Invincible. So what I was doing in my previous Amon build is using the Crucible Forge Swords to build up as much damage as I can into the Prime before the explosion. But now I want to shoot some guns. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pack all the points into Calamity, and we're gonna empower our bullets to be mega giga strong chunksters, so that the prime stacks we can cram as much damage in there as we can possibly do before the big ol' explosions. So the gameplay loop is gonna be simple. We're gonna stab ourselves, just go like, yeah, and then we got them. Then we're gonna throw our knife or our ordnance of your choice, and then we're gonna activate our action skill, and then we're gonna pump the damage into the stacks. You have 10 prime detonation stacks. You wanna get as much damage in there as possible. And then we're going to activate our action skill again to detonate it for a big boom profit. Now, what talents are we taking in order to make sure that that happens? First, we're going to go what burns within. It is incendiary damage. We're going to convert our bullets to incendiary with Dragon's Breath, so this directly buffs it. Then we take Wield the Storm. We're going to get Raging Inferno from our class mod, so our action skill can crit, which means if an incendiary crits, it's going to apply the status effect damage, it's going to have more damage and longer duration. Very nice. Then we're gonna take Bulletstorm. This one is a bit debatable whether you want this or something else. The reason why I'm taking Bulletstorm is because I'm usually running around with Rainbow Vomit or something of the likes that can apply some status effect. So I kinda like it. And it makes it very easy to get some gun damage up. But you could take Impetus and you could take Heavy Plate. That would give you some nicer quality of life and some defensive options. For me, I don't think the game is that hard that I really need the damage reduction and that quick shield recharge, so I'm just going with Bulletstorm. But then we're gonna get the star of the show, and that's Dragon's Breath. Very simple. Whenever we activate our ordnance, the bullet is magically gonna turn into fire, and it's gonna do a fuck ton more damage. And this is what we don't. This is what we want. We want those bullets to carry as much load as possible, because all that is getting stuffed into the prime stacks before detonation. Easy as that. So for that, we're also going to take Catastrophe, and we're also going to take Electrical Fire. Electrical Fire, we make sure that we get both the crit hit chance and the crit hit damage with just doing fire. Then, we're going to go to Berserk for 5 points, and we're going to go to There Is Only Red for 3 points. These are going to be super cool for longer times. If you can get the kill skill stacking up, Berserk is going to make it insane how much damage you do. Then we're going to put 5 points into the Fade, because that one is going to give us some survivability with 50% reduced damage and 25% when damage dealt when we are close. Jesus, I don't know why is this so difficult for me to say. So basically, we're going to go close to the enemy, we're going to do more damage, and they're going to do less damage to us. But then we have 10 points left. And those 10 are going to go towards Executioner for the crit hit damage, and Destruction Engine for the detonation damage. Very simple. Let's circle back for the Augment and for the Capstone. The Augment is going to be Force of Nature. This is what means that we're going to activate our action skill, and then the gun damage is going to be stored. 100% of it is going to be stored into the prime stacks. That's what we're going for. And then we're going to take Stormcutter. And you really want to take Stormcutter. I've tried playing around with not getting Catastrophe and Electric Fire, but taking something else. But the problem is that this is a really nice ranged option that you can just send out flying to anywhere. So it just has a much better activation quality of life. So really, I would recommend that you do that. But this is it for the skills. Let's have a look at the items. And for the items, these are relatively simple. What you want is, you want high core damage. So you want to look at the big boom number, because these are the bullet damage numbers that you're going to empower with your Dragon's Breath. And this is what you're stacking in there. So obviously, high core damage is key. And of course, something like a spread launcher will do a fuck ton of damage to that, right? Because that is 34k 5 times. So if you can land all 5 in there for 5 stacks, that's a big explosion. Now, one of my sleeper favorites though is support drone. I recommend that you get something like this because it's not only going to heal you, it's going to give you 20% damage and 20% move speed and some reload rate. This is really nice. So realistically what I do is I send out my drone, I throw my knife, I go amp myself, and then I activate my action skill, then I pump the damage, and then I activate the action skill again to detonate it. This is my gameplay loop. But for the guns, you're looking for high core damage. So if you can reliably hit all the pellets, then shotguns also work, right? It doesn't have to be the hot slugger, but it's a little bit more difficult. Rainbow Vomit is an exception because it has a very tight spread, so that's good. But things like Borster, Ballista, Truck, those all would be a very nice options. Now, for the Ordinance, Sleepy is going to be your base because it counts as a melee damage, so it activates the crit hit damage bonus to get 40% instead of 20. I, however, also enjoy running with something like a Shokunai because it just has a nice and clean animation, and it doesn't run the risk of me running under it and then killing myself. But Sleepy is best in slot. For the Repkit, it is triple bypass because it gets you the amp and it gets you 3 chances of the amp, so there is a lot more of a strategical damage dealing that you can do with the bypass than with anything else. But if you don't have this, something that gives you a strong sustained buff for Enrage, for example, with AF1000, with whatever it is that you want that you can cycle, is also workable. Realistically, if you don't have this, I would farm and pick up an ordered one that has amp. Those are fairly common to come by. I don't think you're going to have too much of a problem with it. For the enhancement, get an enhancement that enhances your gun, right? As simple as that. Gun damage is going to be very good. If you're using only shotgun damage is going to be very good. If you have something that matches your underbarrels with like a torque, that one is going to give you a lot more bang for your buck. So again, the enhancement is there to overcome a shortcomings of your weapon. So use it wisely. And exactly in the same spirit, the shield. I'm running around with the fireworks at the moment because for mobbing, it's king. But Super Soldier would be very strong. Obviously, anything with 150% amp is going to be your best in slot to do a lot of damage. So what you would be aiming for is something like, I don't have one on me, but something like an amp, but not with 50% gun damage, but with 150% gun damage, right? That would be the highest that you can get rolled on. Something like a Cinder Shelly, something like a Sparky, anything that you fancy, you can use it. I said it in the past video again, in the last video. The shield is not going to break your build, it's only going to elevate your build. So use it for whatever kind of fix or flaw you want to figure out for yourself. And then the class mode. And the class mode is unfortunately not optional. You're going to have to use the Furnace. Not only will it give 45% Incendiary, it is the only class mode that will give you access to both Dragon's Breath and Raging Inferno. And the 7 points that you get as a split can come in between these 4 talents. So you can have Maiming Strike, Dragon's Breath, Raging Inferno, and Mortal Flare. Out of that, 3 is useful. Mortal Flare is dog shit, so we don't worry about that. But the most damaging split would be 5 Dragon's Breath and then 2 Raging Inferno. That would give you the biggest bang for your buck. But any split is good. Like for example, for this version, I'm saving points on 2 Maiming Strikes so I can get a little bit less damage, or a little bit more damage from somewhere else in the talent. But realistically, I would be better off if I use a version that has more Dragon's Breath. So farm this from Idolator Soul. Is that how it's called? It's Idolator, not Isolator, right? Anyway, let me know in the comments. I think I'm right. Either way, farm this one because it's going to be very beneficial. And then for the firmware, Deadeye and High Caliber. These are going to be your highest damaging options out there. So don't even bother with anything else. Or you can bother with something else. I don't think anything got buffed that high that they're going to compete against these. But let me know in the comments if you found something that does a lot more damage compared to this. The one thing I'm going to be thinking about is I've been thinking about using Atlas for free aim hack. That could be good. That could be fun to try out. So stay tuned for that one. And then let's finish off with the specialization. And look, this one is fairly simple. You're gonna wanna take one shot, one kill because you do so much damage that you can keep on rolling it forward to the next and to the next and to the next. That's fairly simple. And you wanna take a Honed Mind because your action skill can crit with Raging Inferno, and this one is gonna give it more chance to crit. And if it crits, it's game over. If it doesn't crit, you might be looking at having to do it again. So a Honed Mind is gonna be very good. After that, depending on how many points you have a lot more options. Riddle you this is going to be very good, but bear in mind, with something like a Hot Slugger, it is not that easy to activate, so keep that in mind. But because if you're using the Slippy, CQC gets activated with that as well, so you could have extra fire rate. You could use Bullet Train, because that one is going to give you the ability to hit fire by sprinting, and it's going to give you some gun damage. Or if you have enough points, you could go down to the best defense, because that one will give you 30% damage dealt. Right? Better your shield or health is full. So realistically, best defense is going to be better than Bullet Train. Now, this is it though. Look, this build is fucking cooked. You do so much damage, it is ridiculous. It's not the most quality of life build. So something like Rafa or Vex, where you can just run around and constantly output a lot of damage, is better. That's why I said in the beginning that I think Amon will need to be looked at by the devs, and hopefully they will, and then they're just going to bring everything up a little bit so that it's in line with the best performing builds, and then we'll see how it works. But this one works relatively smoothly. The Hot Slugger crits are cascading beautifully. It's really fun to use, so give it a whirl. Let me know in the comments how did it go, and I appreciate every single one of you watching. I don't know where you are, if you're chilling with your dog in Hungary or if you're on the other side of the globe. I thank you very much for spending the time and being entertained, hopefully. And of course, as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.